As St. Thomas University is known as, one of the leading institutions in all of Canada, particularly in regard to being the only publicly funded university exclusively dedicated to the liberal arts. Our expert faculty are just, a cherry on top of that. They're a limitless source of not only knowledge, but as Kata mentioned, mentorship, to be honest. So there's a lot of great ways to hear about things. And while we're beyond thankful to be joined by, such a well-rounded panel upcoming now, I think it's probably about time that we can welcome several of our faculty members to join us here for the academic experience panel. This will be one of the first few panels of the day. So I'll allow a moment here for our faculty to join us on camera. There we go. Wonderful. Hello, everyone. Good morning. Hope everyone is doing well. So knowing that this panel is going to continue moving forward, for your introduction, you can feel free to introduce yourself and even from there provide a brief kind of summary of sorts to kind of speak to your program. Again, not to worry if the program is on the shorter side for summary, that's more than fine. We should have a little bit of time during the panel to address anything that might be kind of supplemental information on top of that. So in the order listed there on the panel, I would invite Dr. Carla O'Regan to unmute herself, and then from there, Dr. Bateman, Dr. Harvey, and we'll go from there. But Dr. O'Regan, if you don't mind starting us off, that would be wonderful. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. Hi, everyone. My name is, as Mike said, Dr. Carla O'Regan. I chair the criminology department. I'm a STU grad myself, and after I graduated from St. Thomas, I went on to do a number of law degrees. I guess the sort of elevator pitch for criminology is probably best provided by describing the two courses that you would take in first year as an introduction to crim as a discipline. And the first one is Introduction to Criminology. And that's really a course all about trying to figure out why people commit crime. And so we would use all kinds of other subjects like biology and sociology to help us, psychology, of course, to think about why people commit criminal acts. And then in the second intro course, Introduction to Criminal Justice, we sort of examine all of the ways, okay, crime has happened, what should we do about it? So things like policing and the court system, as well as jail systems and various community-based techniques for dealing with crime. So that's sort of the shortest pitch I can give.
Okay, I'll continue. Tom Bateman, and I am the chair of the Political Science Department. I'm also the coordinator of the university's Law, Politics, and Society program, which is an interdisciplinary studies program interested in examining law from a variety of disciplinary perspectives. And I should mention also that I'm the director of the New Brunswick Legislative Internship Program, which some of you may be interested in as you move into your senior years at St. Thomas University. I can't think of a more interesting and significant time to study politics. I think if you just have a quick look around, you'll notice all the extraordinary things happening in the world. There's a war in Europe, by the way, and we are seeing the return of great power politics in the world. Liberal democracies are under stress in many countries where it had been the sort of the obvious good regime type for decades and generations. Canada is undergoing an experience of policy incapacity in many fields. Just think of health policy, for example. So there's lots going on. Old assumptions are being challenged or completely undermined. And I just think it's endlessly fascinating and important to study. And STU is an excellent place to study politics, as well as law in its social and institutional contexts.
Okay, I guess it's my turn. Good morning, everyone. My name is Janice Harvey. I'm the coordinator of a program called Environment Society at St. Thomas. So just to give you some context for our society, the news And social media, as you know, are full of stories today about the crises of climate change, of species extinctions, plastic pollution, the loss of nature, etc. And these are issues literally that are reshaping our world as we speak, and perhaps more critically, the future that you will inherit and become decision makers in. So arguably, dealing with these crises will be the most important challenges that you will face as a generation and possibly as individuals as you take leadership roles in your society, in your communities. So one of the programs that you can choose to do a major in at STU is Environment and Society. And just to be clear about what this program is not, it's not a science program. It's one that is rooted very firmly in the liberal arts context of St. Thomas. It is an interdisciplinary program in that it draws from across all of the fields that you would find being taught at St. Thomas. And what is it about? Well, it's about the way society is organized that actually creates or causes these environmental crises that we're facing. It also looks at the possible pathways for solving these crises. So we have 4 pillars. We look at the root causes of problems. We look at the various competing perspectives about these problems. And you know that most of these are big debates in society, which speaks to different perspectives. We look at the policies and the politics around surrounding these issues. And then finally, we look at praxis, or what do we do? How do we respond? What are those pathways out of the fix that we're in? So that's a very quick overview of what our Environment Society program is about.
Hello, everyone, and welcome. I'm Linda Casey, and I'm wearing 2 hats today. I am the chair of the Gerontology department, and I'm also the coordinator of Women's Studies and Gender Studies. But since I'm wearing 2 hats, I will try to make it quick. First of all, I get often asked, what is gerontology? And gerontology is the study of the aging process. What makes us unique here at St. Thomas is we study aging from the humanities and the social science perspective. So it's very multidisciplinary. We have many students who go on and do double majors. They do double majors in gerontology and psychology, gerontology and sociology. We even have those who do criminology and gerontology. So it's a very much multidisciplinary. Our faculty members have, multidisciplinary backgrounds also. For gerontology right now, it's a really exciting time because our population is aging. We now have more older adults than we have younger adults. So it's a very exciting and interesting time for us. Women's Studies and Gender Studies is also multidisciplinary in nature. Students who come here often do Women's Studies and Gender Studies. They take cross-listed courses. So they take courses from a variety of disciplines. And you can do, just like in gerontology, you can do a minor and a major. And in Women's Studies, you can do an honors. And for Women's Studies and Gender Studies, it is also a very exciting and interesting time because we can see by the media how we're approaching sexuality and gender differently now. So that's my 2 hats for now. Thank you.
Hi, I guess I'm up next. My name is Bob Eckstein, and I'm a assistant professor in the social work program here at St. Thomas University. I'm also a graduate of St. Thomas University and with a BA and my BSW, and then I went on to graduate studies. This program is an exciting program opportunity. You can apply after your second year of a Bachelor of Arts in terms of admissions to this program. We offer a BSW program. We now also have an MSW program, and we will have a BA to MSW program starting this next fall. So there's lots of opportunities in order to enter admission into the program. You know, it's an exciting opportunity because we have such an eclectic and multidisciplinary opportunity for students to participate in the structural approach to social work, as well as the fact that it's generalist practice. So there's a lot of opportunity for students to find really excellent field placements as well. And I'm responsible for those in this program. So it's an exciting program. It's graduates talk about how excited they are to graduate as professional social workers coming out of this program. Thank you very much for the opportunity to have a conversation with you. And yeah, thank you.
Hi, everyone. It looks like I'm next. Give me a wave if you can hear me okay this morning. Awesome. My name is Dr. Lisa Mitchell. I'm currently the acting director of the School of Education at St. Thomas. My little spiel about education is a little bit different than those who are just coming into the BA program potentially, because the Bachelor of Education program is actually a post-degree program. So we are an 11-month program, and you would apply to enter our program after you have completed your undergraduate degree. So that would be a 4-year degree, either a BA, like it's something like at STU, or a BSc from somewhere else. We're an 11-month program, and we're very intensive. We're very hands-on, we're very experiential. And what we do is essentially certify you by the end of that Bachelor of Education program to be a teacher in K-12 public schools. So our program is 60 credit hours crammed into 11 months. It's intensive, but it's fun and it's interactive. We have a couple of different ways for you to think about entering the program. If you are considering becoming an elementary school teacher, we have 2 different tracks that you can consider. One is to enter elementary stream as an English speaker, and one is to focus on FSL. And then if you're considering a potential future career as a middle or high school teacher, that's our second stream of courses. Those courses would be focused on the areas that you think you might want to teach eventually in a middle or high school. So history, music, math, biology, etc. Our program also, in addition to coursework, includes field placements. So, or some people call them practicums. You go out in schools, you get to be in actual K-12 classrooms in the local school districts in New Brunswick. And we have 2 of those field placements that happen throughout that 11-month program. Both of those field placements are 8 weeks long each. And you get to work hands-on with kids. You get to be in real classrooms, trying out all the things that you're going to be learning at STU. My background before I became a prof was actually as a K-12 educator. I mostly taught music and arts education. I was also vice principal. And one of the things that really makes our 11-month program unique is that every prof is like me. We've all been certified teachers. We've all worked in K-12 classrooms, and we really try to tailor our teaching to the reality of what it is to be a public school teacher. So, you know, our program is a little bit different. If anyone has any questions about how you can apply, I'd be happy to take those questions at any point during the session today. Thank you very much.
And thank you to all of our panelists for some, I know it's tricky to manage kind of an elevator pitch almost of a program or programs that can take years in length to kind of get to that point. So wonderfully said for all of you. But with that, we do have a number of questions coming in. So over the next little while, we will do what we can to answer some of these questions. That being said, the first question that we kind of want to ask roundtable style again, and again, we can start with Dr. O'Regan and make our way down to Dr. Mitchell on this. Is kind of just to get a sense of our faculty. Our faculty are certainly some of our greatest assets here at the university. And a lot of these expert, professors, instructors, mentors, they all kind of have an origin of their own. So briefly, if it's not too much trouble for kind of a roundtable discussion again, beginning with Dr. O'Regan, how did you become interested in this program area? And why did you kind of choose to pursue teaching it, instructing it, and kind of serving as a professor here?
Thanks, Mike. Okay, well, I think as I mentioned, my background's in law. So while I was at St. Thomas, we didn't have a criminology department. And so this will be a good pitch for Dr. Bateman coming up next. But one of my areas of specialization as a St. Thomas student was political science. And the other one was sociology, because both of those departments offered me the opportunity to look at law as it functions within society, and sort of both how the public reacts to law, as well as how we define in the case of criminology, criminal behavior. So I was very driven by an interest in law, and I went on to law school. And I did some practice with family law and a little bit of criminal law, and I was very drawn to the study of crime. So, but to be honest about how I came to I always feel odd at describing myself as a criminologist, even though I do have a master's in criminology. It's just that, like Ms. Perez, the member of our alumni who spoke so eloquently before this panel about her own experience at STU, much like that, I found everywhere after St. Thomas asked me, St. Thomas was all about broadening my horizons, the way that I think about the world, the way that I think about my own belief systems and how I've come to hold those values. So it was all very, well, like the name, right? Liberating. It was sort of broad. But after my liberal arts degree, every degree I have had since, and all of my professional capacities, it's far more about narrowing the focus, becoming an expert, narrowing the field. And so when I came to STU, the opportunity, my favorite thing about criminology is it felt like I didn't have to choose a particular discipline or a particular way of looking at things. I could continue to use political science, I could continue to use psychology and sociology and explore all kinds of other fascinating fields, because the reality is human beings are messy, and the reasons that we do things are messy. And so crime is just one example, an extreme example of some of those complex human behaviors. So I really found that my liberal arts degree sort of spoiled me in terms of the ability to think about an issue from multiple perspectives. There's never just two sides to a story. And STU really made that a kind of natural go-to place for the way that I think about problems. And so the opportunity to revisit that within a field that stays as open to different perspectives as Crim does was a good fit, I think, for somebody who enjoyed the liberal arts as much as I did.
Great. Tom Bateman here. And I go back to my experience as a high school student, and I did some debating. And on one occasion, my debate partner and I attended a debating tournament which had both high school and university students participating. And I attended several debates by the university students, and I was staggered by their knowledge of things political and current. And they were political science students. And I thought, wow, I wish I knew about half as much as they do. The other thing that was going on is that when I was moving into my first year of university, so I was like right at your age, Canada was right in the midst of a huge constitutional debate. This was the summer of 1980, and it was the very divisive and difficult period of debate prior to the patriation of the Constitution and the entrenchment of the Canadian Charter. And I knew nothing about this. I knew nothing about Canadian history. I didn't know much about what a constitution was, its place in the whole legal panoply, and so forth. And I actually wanted to learn more about that. And I took a variety of courses as an undergraduate at the University of Calgary in my first year. One of them, actually two of them, were political science courses, and I started to understand. But the other thing that happened in my first year experience was that I had a few really good professors, and from whom I learned an awful lot. And two of them were political science professors, and that was as much an influence as anything else on my interest in pursuing the study of politics. So that's my little story.
Well, that's my story. it also starts back as an undergrad, but not in relation to what I was learning in classrooms, actually. I got involved with a bunch of other students as an environmental activist back in my undergrad university days, and there were environmental issues then as there are today. And I became very passionate about that whole area. I ended up actually going to work at an environmental organization and doing environmental education, environmental advocacy and activism. And I spent many years actually working for the Conservation Council of New Brunswick. And that was a citizens environmental group. So at some point I decided that it was time to move on and I really wanted to go back to school. So I ended up applying to do a master's degree, and from there went on to do a PhD, and that was late in my career. But then it seemed like a very natural sort of progression then to move into teaching. And so I came to STU in the Environment Society program and have been teaching there now for 12 or 13 years. And so what I bring, I guess, to the classroom is a lot of experience outside the classroom, outside academia, actually doing what a lot of what I teach at STU. So it gives me, I think, quite a little, well, a different perspective, perhaps, on environmental issues and what we do about them than perhaps might otherwise be the case. But yeah, my passion started in my undergrad years, many years ago, and I've been following them ever since. And yeah, so I want that's enough for now.
Oh, my story is a bit different. There was no gerontology department when I was an undergrad. As many students experience, I didn't know what I wanted to do, to be honest. So I was just taking a bunch of courses. And in the sociology department, they were offering an introduction to gerontology. And I was hooked. I have to give credit to the professor who taught the course. It really suited my interest in the liberal arts. And I loved old people on top of that. The older adults, and they were in my family, were very much part of the family. I was very close to my grandparents, very close to my great-grandparents. And I thought, wow, this is exciting. I can study older adults and the aging process from a social science and humanities perspective. And the professor that I had, like I mentioned, he was very influential in my decision to concentrate on aging. And we studied in that one course, Introduction to Gerontology. We went everywhere. We looked at criminology, we looked at psychology, with sociology, anthropology, and it was just so exciting for me. And then there was another course called Sociology of Aging. I took that course, and then that was history. And then I started to be interested in gender issues. I was coming from a very exciting time in the early 80s, that ages me now, but early 80s, where there was a lot of changes going on. And I saw that I could combine my women's studies and gender studies minor with my interest in aging also. So my career now has been mainly focused on gender and aging. So that's how I became addicted to the program itself. Went on and did a master's in sociology, again, because there was no gerontology program at that time. Did my master's in sociology with a concentration in aging. And then I did an interdisciplinary PhD, again, because there was no PhD in gerontology yet. So, but still, that's what makes gerontology so exciting, is you can do this multidisciplinary kind of route and specialize in aging in another discipline, which is what I did. So that's my story. Thank you for listening.
Hi, this is Bob Eckstein from the social work program. So How did I get started? Well, I graduated, as I said, with a Bachelor of Arts in Sociology here at STU, and then I went on to take my BSW. I had some absolutely wonderful professors in this program at the time that I still reflect on in many ways in terms of the things I learned at that time. St. Thomas University is an absolutely wonderful university to attend because they are smaller class sizes, but you really get to know your professors, and you really get to have some really good thought in class and after class. You really get to know your fellow students and really engage in some really good critical thought. But myself personally, I worked in the youth justice system for a long time. As a matter of fact, I've been in the field for over 40 years now. So I spent 35 years in the public service at various capacities at the frontline level as a social worker, in the policy field, and in the director of programs areas. I've always had a passion for youth justice and social justice in general. I spent over 15 years teaching part-time and as a lecturer in the criminology program, primarily in the courses around youth justice. And I've taught now here at St. Thomas for the past 4.5 years after my career in the public service. But I really enjoy working with the students, especially around preparing for professional practice. So that's primarily my role. So those are the courses that I teach. But I also find that what's really exciting about this program is the fact that students really get to learn from each other as well, because they really bring an eclectic talents, gifts, and strengths with them, and can really engage in conversation about what social work means to them and what it should mean, especially at that meso and macro level, and looking at systems and looking at the structural elements of social problems and social issues. And what do we do about that? And how do we challenge the system? So in third year, you will do a social action placement, which is really exciting, and that's a group placement. And in the fourth year, you would do a generalist practice, direct practice placement. And we're very lucky because we have really strong relationships with community throughout the Maritime for these placements. And I've had the privilege of getting to know and work with many, many great students, and great people working in the field. So that's kind of my story. Thank you very much.
Hi, everyone. Lisa Mitchell here again from education. I mentioned earlier that I was a K-12 teacher, and so my window into my current field was originally as a student myself. When I was in high school, I was in love with music education. I played the flute and piano. I learned how to be a conductor. So my first degree was actually a Bachelor of Music. And I decided during that Bachelor of Music that I wanted to be in the education side of music. So I did a Bachelor of Education, and I was out teaching in public schools and in private schools for about 10 years. And I realized somewhere along the way that I actually really loved music, but it acted more as a window in to the field of education. So when I decided to do a master's degree and then a PhD, I actually did it focused in education. So an MEd and then a PhD in education, because I really feel passionate about the education process itself. And I thought that perhaps instead of acting as a K-12 teacher directly, I could have more of a feel of inclusiveness or a sphere of influence as a teacher of new teachers. So I really fell in love with working with new teachers. First of all, as a high school teacher, I would mentor new teachers as they came in and out of my classrooms, and also as a vice principal. And now I've been working with BEd students, that we call them teacher candidates, for almost 10 years now. And I absolutely love the feeling of being able to mold and shape and dialogue with people who are so passionate about education itself. And so one of the things I always tell people about going into education is, it's great to have a subject specific passion. For me, it was music at the time, but it's even greater if you have a passion for kids and knowing that you can support them in the way that they need to be supported in schools. And that might not be subject specific. That might be that they need, a safe adult in their lives to help them through that learning process. Or it might be through some element of educational psychology or social justice. The interdisciplinary elements of education and teaching are what really make me feel passionate and fiery now. So that's how I ended up actually teaching teachers. So some of you may have that passion for a subject, and some of you may be looking at a passion that you have for really seeing that light bulb moment in the kids that you're going to work with.
Wonderful. Thank you, Dr. Mitchell. And thank you again to the rest of the panel here. I do realize that we are kind of winding down on some time for this panel, but that being said, your previous answers have actually answered a number of questions that have been coming in and going. So well said, well versed, well comprehensive on top of that. A couple of questions that I might be able to pose here almost in a rapid fire style a little bit. We have a couple of questions coming in. So Professor Eckstein, I might actually ask you a question here. Just someone inquiring about the BA to MSW program or the BSW to MSW program. Is this something that is starting in fall 2023, or do you know if there's a tentative timeline for when students could expect this to be available?
That is the plan. If you wanted, whoever has that question wanted to reach out to admissions, they can please do so. Yes, that is a plan, is to have that start at that time. Yes.
Wonderful. Thank you. All right. We have another question here for Dr. Casey, actually. So we have a student asking, is there going to be any courses upcoming for women's studies and gender studies available this coming semester? So January 2023.
We do have an introduction to gerontology, introduction to women's studies and gender studies. It's a 6 credit hour course, so it started in September. And then after Christmas, we have a topic on dealing with feminist research methods that's being offered. Now, students can take cross-listed courses. So I always keep a list of cross-listed courses that students can take. And also there is also on the website, the Women's Studies and Gender Studies website, a list of cross-listed courses. So unfortunately, I don't have the list in front of me because I just updated the list. And so, but there is if they want to contact me directly, by all means, and I can actually send the list of courses that are available.
Yeah, by all means, that makes perfect sense. Thank you, Dr. Casey. Dr. Mitchell, we have a quick question here. So for a student just being curious about the application process for education, which I'm sure you could probably answer very quickly. Are they expecting to apply to one field, primary or secondary, or do they apply to both?
Yeah, there's actually a place, first of all, it's one application. You don't have to apply separately for the different streams. And in that application, there's actually a place to rank your choices. So if you really, really want to be an elementary school teacher, you need to rank that as number 1. If you really want to be a secondary school teacher, rank middle secondary as number 2. Or if you know that you're qualified for FSL, that is actually a 3rd option as well. So we ask you to rank those choices. As much as possible, 95% of the time, if you are admitted and offered admissions, you'll be offered whatever the number 1 choice was. Sometimes we offer number 2 choice, depending on what your academic background is, but there should be a place in the actual application to make those rankings.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And then I think we might take maybe a second question here as we begin to wind down a little bit. Amazing how quick time flies by on that. But that being said, the knowledge being shared and the experiences almost serve as steps, advice, however you want to perceive it. So hopefully there's been some significant value for the attendees. We have a question in regards to political science. So Dr. Bateman, we have someone asking, does political science at St. Thomas, does it look at any international systems versus Canadian policies and practices? Is it more of a blend? Is it kind of leaning towards more of a domestic side of things, or does it kind of continue to have that international lens?
No, that's fine. It's a good question. And the political science department at STU offers courses covering 4 main subfields of political science. One is Canadian politics and government. The other is comparative politics and government, which examines the institutions and regime types of a variety of countries around the world. And we've got a basket of courses in international relations. And also the 4th subfield is the study of the history of political thought. And I might mention that the political science department houses a separate program called the International Relations Program. And it has a sort of a family relationship with political science, but it's its own thing. So short answer is we cover the major traditional subfields of the study of politics.
Certainly do. And with that, I think we might actually begin to conclude this panel here. So that being said, if you do need more information, this is certainly not the last time you'll be able to tune into more virtual info sessions about programming. In the new year, students can expect to have a variety of opportunities to learn more about all of our programs, frankly, when it comes to the course selection process. If somebody is already completing their undergrad and they're looking at something similar to the BSW or the BED, the Bachelor's of Social Work and Education, the Bachelor of Education, if you previously attended that, actually had a wonderful info session regarding kind of next steps for their applicants as well. So that being said, if you do have any questions, if you'd like to be connected with any faculty, program specific folks in the coming days, coming weeks, coming months, as you're kind of going about the process of becoming a future student, we will certainly provide you opportunities. But I just want to thank our academic panel here once again. And with that, we respect your time and we respect the time that you've allocated for us. So we wish you a wonderful morning and hope you all have a wonderful weekend.